Welcome, everyone. Today, we are diving into Read People Like a Book, a transformative guide by Patrick King, a renowned social interaction and conversation coach. This presentation outlines the blueprint for analyzing, understanding, and predicting the emotions and intentions of those around us. King argues that reading people is not a mystical superpower, but a learned skill. Our goal today is to move beyond simple hunches and master a logical, data-driven approach to human interaction. To truly understand others, we must focus on three core pillars. First, we decode motivations by looking at deep psychological drivers like ego defenses and foundational needs. Second, we master nonverbal signals, learning to analyze message clusters across body language and vocal tones to find leaked truths. Finally, we enhance our observation by bypassing personal biases to read digital footprints and detect deception. By synthesizing these pillars, we can adjust our communication style to reach our audience more effectively and build more harmonious, successful lives. Many people believe they are naturally good with people, but they often fall victim to confirmation bias, remembering only the times they were right while ignoring their errors. A flawed approach relies on isolated actions, like assuming someone is lying just because they looked away. Conversely, a true analytical approach requires established baselines. You must know how someone acts normally to detect deviations. We must also account for context and culture, recognizing that a gesture like eye contact can signify honesty in one culture but disrespect in another. Underneath every observable action lies a series of motivational layers. At the deepest level is the unconscious, including Jung's shadow, parts of ourselves we've disowned, and the inner child, which often drives adult tantrums and defensive reactions. Moving outward, Maslow's hierarchy shows that our drives shift from basic survival and safety towards self-esteem and self-actualization. Finally, the pleasure-pain principle acts as our reptilian driver, pushing us to maximize immediate comfort and avoid psychological harm at all costs. When the ego feels threatened by failure or rejection, it acts like a giant porcupine, raising tactical barriers to protect our self-image. These defense mechanisms, like rationalization, where we invent logical excuses for poor behavior, or projection, where we accuse others of having the negative feelings we possess, often override logical motives. Understanding these is vital. If you can recognize when someone is in child mode or using denial to bend reality, you can change the dynamic and engage with their adult aspect instead. To categorize behavior accurately, we use three major frameworks. The Big Five, Ocean, measures broad traits like openness and neuroticism, helping us assess emotional stability and social disposition. Young and the MBTI focus on how people prefer to process information, such as sensing versus intuition, which helps us understand how they organize their world. Lastly, the Enneagram identifies 9 archetypes based on core fears and motivations, such as the achiever or the peacemaker, offering a deeper why behind their actions. The human face is a battleground between voluntary and involuntary neural pathways. While we can fake macro expressions, which are sustained and conscious, we cannot easily hide micro expressions. These are involuntary muscle contractions lasting just 1/30th of a second that reveal genuine emotion. Watch for asymmetry, as forced emotions often look off on one side of the face. Tension often leaks through a furrowed brow or pursed lips, while genuine happiness is characterized by crow's feet wrinkles at the outside corners of the eyes. Body language is a billboard advertising a person's internal state. We can map these signals onto a matrix of dominance versus submission and openness versus defense. Dominant, expanding postures like hand steepling or taking up space signal confidence. Conversely, closed, defensive gestures such as turtling, raised shoulders, or crossing legs as barriers signal fear. Always look for pacifying behaviors like rubbing the neck or stroking hair, which are unconscious attempts to self-soothe under real-time stress. Crucially, we must never read a single cue in a vacuum. A crossed arm might just mean the room is cold. Instead, we look for message clusters where vocal tone, body posture, and facial expressions either align or clash. Incongruence is the primary indicator of hidden tension or deceit. For example, if someone's voice is calm but their feet are pointing toward the exit while they perform self-soothing touches, their body is leaking a desire to escape that their words are trying to hide. Professional lie detection is about active conversational strategy, not just passive observation. Forget the myths. Shifty eyes or looking to the right are not definitive proof of deceit. In reality, humans are generally no better than chance at spotting lies. Deception is most detectable when it is spontaneous and high stakes. Because liars often actively suppress common tells, we must use strategic questioning to increase their cognitive load, forcing their brain to prioritize fabricating a story over regulating their nonverbal leaks. To unmask a liar, follow this action flow. Start with open questions, letting them speak first to spin a detailed web without knowing what you already know. Then, introduce surprise by asking for granular, unexpected details that weren't in their rehearsed script. Next, increase cognitive load by asking them to repeat the story non-chronologically or by introducing a minor false detail to see if they adopt it. Finally, observe the leak. Watch for delayed responses or a sudden drop in vocal emotion.
We often have to make snap judgments through thin slicing, finding patterns in very small amounts of data. You can read a person's character by observing their environment and possessions. Identity claims are deliberate signals, like posters or awards, showing how someone wants to be perceived. Feeling regulators, such as family photos or inspirational quotes, show how they manage their emotional state. Finally, behavioral residue, the physical traces of daily habits like coffee cups or piles of books, reveals their actual uncurated values. One of the most effective ways to bypass a person's defenses is through indirect questions. Asking, "What would you rescue from a fire?" reveals their core values, whether they prioritize practical survival items, sentimental heirlooms, or their passport, freedom. Asking them to design a video game character reveals their idealized self-image and the traits they secretly admire. Finally, asking what is effortless versus exhausting helps separate innate talents from true passions, exposing where their energy naturally flows without friction. In the workplace, the first 5 minutes of an interview are critical for assessing conscientiousness through handshakes and posture. In meetings, identify the true decision maker not by who speaks loudest, but by energy flow. The direction in which people's feet and torsos point reveals who they genuinely defer to. Even in the digital space, we can read chronotypes. Consistent late-night emails often indicate a night owl profile, which research correlates with high creativity, but also potentially higher levels of anxiety. As we conclude, remember that true people reading is not a parlor trick, but a disciplined synthesis of objectivity, observation, and empathy. We must map observable behaviors back to their root motivations, always considering the context of the environment and the individual's baseline. By looking for message clusters rather than isolated signs, we can see past the masks people wear. Mastering these skills allows us to understand ourselves better, build deeper connections, and navigate the world with far greater social intelligence.